Howdy there. Today is April 17th, I think. And so I wanted to give some heads up this time of year. Um, there is a lot of marauders. If you have other beehives in your neighborhood, there's no farms like immediately around here, no known hives or just some spotted folks around here and there who have a beehive. And what I've noticed quite a bit is that bees from their hive are constantly bouncing around trying to get in this hive. They're constantly probing, looking for an entry somewhere other than the front, and they have constantly tried to get into the front. They're exploring their vulnerability. Is this an aggressive hive? Is this a passive hive? Can I get in there and get what I want from this hive? And once a marauder from another hive, gets into your hive, and they escape with some food, they will go tell their buddies, and they will be back in numbers. And those numbers will grow and grow. And before you know it, you can have tens of thousands of marauders bouncing off your hive, constantly trying to get in the front. Now, how do I know this? First-hand experience. I was like, what was going on? What's my first year of beekeeping, a couple years ago. And they robbed most of the honey, and I had fed those girls all spring, all summer, going into fall. I fed them, and they had probably about 100 pounds of sugar syrup honey. It was sugar syrup honey, most of it. Probably I'm sure mixed in with some other stuff, but I fed the heck out of them, and they ate it up. And so the marauders took most of it. I think they might have left 10 pounds. And I had 3 boxes, brood boxes, at that time, and they cleaned them out. And it was because mostly, one, the varroa mites were depleting my hive and making it unhealthy and vulnerable to the marauders. They didn't have the energy or the strength to tiny beehive beetles to fight off that many marauders. They just didn't have the energy because they were sick. These girls here are pretty healthy. I check on their maintenance. I do maintenance every single day. Every day I'm out here. How you girls doing? Do I need to open up your door more? Do I need to close your door, make it smaller? What do you need, girls? That's called beekeeping. I'm a beekeeper. This doesn't mean it's like a dog. You just don't get a dog and then say, oh, throw it in the backyard. Good luck. You'll find something back there to eat and drink. No, I give them water. I give them food. I make sure that they're healthy and that they look healthy and they're acting healthy. I make sure there's not a bunch of predators constantly trying to get into the hive. I've got thousands of ants that are constantly trying to get up in this hive, and I put an oil base at the legs. This is galvanized posts that I have this frame built out of, and at the very base of the galvanized post, which is the only entry into the hive, I put an oil base that the bees, the bees stay far away from it, but the ants, they don't get close to it. So, and that's the only entry is the legs. So I just spot it every week or two, get a little brush and I put some fresh stinky oil down there at the base. And but the ants are crawling, thousands of them all over the place. So whatever bees are dying on the ground, they're down there eating them up right away. And so I'm able, because I have a shingle floor mat here for my old roof. When I redid my roof, I took off the shingles and I said, I could probably use these for something. Well, here it is. I use them for trails, walkways. I use them for all kinds of different things. Garden bordering. The type of shingles that I have are non-toxic shingles. They were Yeah, I watched them being put on when they were the year they were put on. I was here when they put the shingles on my roof, and I was here when I took them all off by myself and put new ones on. So I knew what they were. And so these particular shingles have such a slow degradation that they're benign to the environment. Benign. So, yeah, you can use them for whatever nowadays. But in the 70s, they were so toxic. Yeah, Congress passed a law, and there was a big stink from the environmentalists because there was some really bad toxins in shingles up until the 70s and early 80s, whatever it was. So anything that was made from 1991 or 89, something like that, on were benign shingles. And mine were, these here were 1998 shingles. Totally benign. Yeah, do your research. The ethnicity of the data is available. It's make up your own mind. We can go by what somebody says or look at the data. And so now these marauders, I was out here this morning, they're just bouncing around, and now and then this particular marauder, she would test the entry to see what their response was. And the response was zero. They were so busy in that entry that marauder was nervous about going in. And I'm a little nervous that I didn't see any response from my bees about that marauder penetrating slightly the entryway. Because at that time I had the whole entryway all the way open. So what I did is I reduced it. So what I'll do is I'll come back here, I'm doing my thing, and I'll walk by here, I'll take a look and see what's going on briefly. And if I see not much activity in the front, I'll narrow the entryway so that it's narrow. But if I come out doing my business and I see that narrow entryway and it's all packed with bees trying to get past each other, I'll open it up. But I only want the entry open up just enough to allow free flow. And on hot days, I'll open it all up. If I see fanners out, at that point I'll open up the whole front so that the fanners will. Yesterday I watched them. The fanners were in this entryway, and all these bees, the other bees, were trying to get by the fanners. And I opened it all up, and all the fanners went all the way to the corner over there, and hunkered in and fanned over there, out of the way of all the in and out. It's like, oh, come on, Mary Lou, get Sue. Let's go over here. There's no traffic. We can fan over there. So they all went over there in the corner, and I watched them all move over there, and they all kind of clustered and created like a big fan by all their energy together. They were all clustered together. It's like a big fan now, and you can almost feel that air, right? They're trying to dry out that honey that's in there, and so that's how they do it, is they dry out that honey. They need to bring it down to 18% moisture or less. And so yeah, it was really interesting to watch all of them shift over, like, wow, this is much better. We ain't getting run over while we're trying to, cool the hive. So I'll do that periodically. So when I see them out fanning, I open up the doors. But I will monitor that. When I open them up like that, when I'm out doing my stuff, cognitively, I'm conscious of I did that. And so I'm going to return. I return anyway. I'm back here doing stuff all the time. As I'm walking by doing stuff, I'm gonna take a peek, see what's happening, okay or not okay, and then I'll adjust things on the fly. So that's beekeeping, right? Sometimes bees need our help, and they need our interference. They need us to interfere in something that's bad happening to them. And so when my bees are being agitated, they're being aggressive towards me, it's because they have been under attack. They're in defensive mode because something was attacking them, trying to get in, and now they've got their guard up, which I'm glad that they have that skill set. Otherwise, I don't think I'd have a beehive right now. So Today everything looks pretty good. I'm thinking about doing a panel pull, so this will come out. My panel will come out. Um, so I did one 2, 3 days ago. I pulled a panel, and I didn't see any varroa mites. Now varroa mites, they have a cycle just like the bees, and it's very similar to the bees. Their life cycle. So when the varroa mites dies, um, they'll fluff off the bee and fall through my screen board onto my tacky board, and I'll see the old, the dead, and the dying on my tacky board, and the old varroa mites that are on my tacky board. That'll give me an idea of the level of infection, not whether or not the bees pulled them off of each other after my powder shake, but it'll give me the tacky board is going to give me an idea of how high the cycle level of the varroa mites are. And if I see no varroa mites week after week, that means there is no cycle, right? There has to be a cycle for there to be a cycle. And the cycle is varroa mite drops. They live, they die, they live, they die, they live, they die. And so if there's no death, there's no infection. And so there's no varroa mites. At least there's not a cycle, right? Now, I had left from the last powder shake I did, I had left it in there for 2 weeks. I hadn't done a powder shake or panel pull for 2 weeks. And the reason why is because the previous one I didn't see any varroa mites. So I thought, I'll see what it looks like in 2 weeks. Well, I came back in 2 weeks, and that tacky board was so full of stuff, but it was from them rebuilding the comb, taking it apart, dismantling the old comb, and reshaping, reforming, getting it ready for honey, getting it ready for brood, getting it ready, for storing pollen, and all that stuff. And they were rebuilding. The building was under construction, and those were just pieces of 2x4s and plywood, right? Honeycomb pieces. And I never melt that down. I put that down to drain. And I sterilize my tacky boards after each use. And if you think about it though, my tacky board is equivalent to the bottom of the beehive. When was the last time you sterilized the bottom of your beehive? I sterilize mine frequently by just pulling out my tacky board. I sterilize it. Slide it. Well, I have a couple I exchange. So I pull one out, have another one ready with my vegetable oil already smeared on it. Slide it in there. Take the panel I just took out, put it under a microscope and look for those little burgers. And other things. I've got an infestation of tiny, tiny gnat-like hive beetles. And I have to call them hive beetles because they go into the hive. They're trying to get into the hive. So I'm going to call them hive beetles. And I've got a really close look at them. And their shell, their outer top shell, opens up just like a ladybug. So I seen them fly in. They look just about the size of a gnat, just a typical gnat. And I have seen a drone lately, so she's laying drones, but she ain't laying a lot of them. I only seen one, but she's laying them, and so that's good. And so the gnat landed. I thought it was a gnat, but then I watched it do this. It brought that shell down over its wings, and then it looked like a bug, a different bug. So it folded its wings in like a ladybug, and it put its hard shell over the wings, just like a ladybug. Oh, there's a fanner. Okay, girl, let's open you up. How's that? Is that better? There's even gnats right there trying to get in. So there's so many things that want our honey. Their honey, right? I don't use the honey for anything particular. For me right now, it's about using the honey to feed them. So when I make splits and make my queens and all that kind of stuff, I want to give them honey. I want to give them, pollen and all that stuff that they already had. I don't want to have to feed them. So I don't use the honey. I don't use sugar for anything. I use natural sweeteners like I grow grapes and I grow peaches and I grow apples and raspberry. I use natural sweeteners. I'll take them and I'll puree it and put them in a ice cube trays, and I'll take out a cube at a time or however many I think I need for something. How's that, babies? Let the sunshine in. And but these bees, just so you know, you folks who are kind of new coming at this, particularly, you can have a very docile hive. You're going like, oh my gosh, like this I hear, docile eyes can be. You can have, you know, these land on you, walk around. I've had them land on me, you know, and I'm looking down at them. All of a sudden, I notice that they turn their head and look up at me, and they're doing this, and they're looking right into my eyes, right into my eyes, just right, assessing me, right, imprinting, right, and then they just fly back in the hive or whatever, right? And so, but these bees can be, all of a sudden, can turn on you. And the main reason is because they can get so many pheromones, attack pheromones, going on because of something else that attacked them, something else that wasn't you. It wasn't you. It was something before you came along and you didn't know. And so you come in here doing what you come sit aside and do what you normally always do, but all of a sudden you're being stung left and right, and they're starting to really get you pretty heavy. And that's why I'm saying become the bee whisperer, right? Watch their body language. I had a girl a couple days ago, and she had it out for me. She had never seen me before. I was a new boy on the block. And so she buzzed me. So what I did is I spread my fingers apart as she was trying to get to my face to sting me. And I did that, and she would come around that hand this way, and I would do that. And then she'd go back the other way, and then I would put my hand there. And I just kept doing that. I don't know, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. She backed off further and further because she couldn't make sense of that. She's like, I don't know what to do with that. And she backed off further and further until she flew away, right, to reassess what's going on. And then she came back, I don't know, 5 minutes later, whatever it was, and she tried again. Same response. Same response. So in her head, and I think she did it 3 times in a 30-minute period or so, 3 times she did that. I don't like you there. And 3 times I responded the same way, and 3 times she responded the same way. She ended up backing away. We don't need to over-respond to a bee's behavior. And we got to be careful not to under-respond. If you have many bees coming at you, run. They are in attack mode because of something else that happened before you came along. Some wasps were trying to get in there and they were fighting for their lives. That's how they feel anyway. Some marauders, a whole bunch of them came at once, you know, and they were trying to get in. They had to fight them off because they feel like they're fighting for their lives, right? Save the hive. Save the queen. Long live the queen. Right? And so, and then you come along. And you just go about the stuff you've been doing every day. The previous day was fine. The next day you're doing what you've always done. You're going, what's happened? They've turned on me. No, it's just about understanding the bee's nature. Watch them very closely, their demeanor. If they're acting aggressive towards you, and you're not in the middle of doing something like, you know, feeding them or something, or doing something with the hive, you're not, you know, if you're just doing like I'm doing right now, I'm just chilling with the bees. I'm just having a bee day, right? I'm just chilling. You want that open over there too, girls? Well, let me open it up. So they went all the way to the corner. See, they're starting to fan now. So all these fanners that are here, They went all the way to the end and fanned over there while all the bees coming in and out, they just came in and out over here. All the fanners went over there. Fans were over there. Incoming was over here and outgoing. So I got a fanner here. There's a fanner there. So these fanners are going to start moving down towards the end so that they're not in the way of the any outies. Right? They're going to slowly shift over now. Now that I opened that end over there, they're going to slowly shift. More and more fanners are going to go. I can already see it happening. More and more fanners are going to start going to the end and staying out of the way of the busy section. Makes sense, don't it? They're just using common sense, aren't they? Something you would do, I would do. They're making bee common sense. Right? It's not important to think like a bee. It's about understanding their behavior. I just enjoy watching them. I like sitting here and observing their various characteristics of nature. And every bee is so different. They have different behaviors. They respond to each other differently. Not one bee will respond to another bee the same way. Yeah. I watched one bee. One of my cherry blossoms fell down on up here. It was when I had another beehive was in the front, and a bee came out to inspect that thing that just fell. She touched it with her mandibles. A little harder, a little harder, a little harder, a little harder. Then she started tapping it around, rolling it around, roll around. She backed off, and then she pounced on it. She literally jumped on it and rolled around on it and with it until she rolled off the edge and onto the ground. I was watching the whole thing going, that girl is obviously playing. She is having fun. She's enjoying herself with this fun. And she hits the ground and she kind of goes this, like, what happened? Then she just flies back up to the hive and goes back in. She just was having fun, playing, kind of like, someone playing baseball, bouncing a ball off a wall. You know how we do that? Yeah. I watched them play like that many times though. I watched them play with each other, just fighting each other, play fight, like people do. Play fight, roll around, having fun. Sometimes they would get aggressive, really aggressive. Sometimes it would turn to biting and I'd see pieces of wings gone. Get really aggressive just like people sometimes. We end up in the hospital, take it too far. And sometimes the bees, when they play fight, sometimes they take it too far. Sibling rivalry, right? Okay, well, subscribe, thumbs up, ring the bell, and I'll keep you up to date on the progression of this beehive. I chose to use no chemicals or anything like that, and I got them through the winter using no chemicals, and the last month I've been varroa mite free, except for when they had a massive, man, they were out so big because we had a bunch of flowering, and there was bees out from all over this area. And so there was a lot of transference of whatever diseases, a lot of varroa mites. And so I noticed, so I was thinking about that, and I thought, that's a lot of activity coming in with all that food. I can't imagine they didn't pick up some varroa mites from the neighbors. And so I pulled the panel, I think it was the next day after that. After me thinking about that, I thought, you know what? If they did bring them in, they probably did the grooming thing and they're on the bottom. I don't want them to climb back in. So I pulled it out and I think I saw about 6 varroa mites in there. But they didn't, they looked weird, like dark, like they've been out in the sun or something. My mites that are in here are typically white. If they were born in here, typically white with a light tan. The ones that I saw, they looked like they'd been suntanned. They were like dark. They had a weird shape to them. They were longer wide. Mine were more round, the ones I've had in my hive. So I think these were just of a different variant, but they're still varroa mites. But kind of like you got Corona bees, you got Italian bees, you got Russian bees. Well, you can get the same variations in varroa mites and breeds. So yeah, they're not clones either, just like the bees aren't clones. In fact, my beehive is a mongrel beehive, which is cool. I like that. There are Coronola bees here. So I got bees that are black all the way up to very light tan, almost solid light tan, and all in between. My queen's a mongrel. She mated with a bunch of different males from different breeds. And so she's a mongrel, which is good. That means that there's a really good genetic diversity in my hive. And that's really cool. And I like that. And so they're doing really good today. And the thing about know about bees is sometimes you're enjoying your bees and everything's healthy and there's no dying, everything's good. And you go out the next day, literally the next day, and you can see all your bees dead on the ground. Some dead in the hive, but mostly on the ground. They have this weird system. It's always been that way since the beginning of the bees, probably pretty close. It has to do with saving the hive, right? Protecting the hive as a whole. The needs of the many future outweigh the needs of the many present. Bee thinking, right? And so I had two massive die-offs, one in late fall, early winter, and then one in winter, midwinter. I came out here, on a Monday. Oh, nothing. Picked up a couple, like 2-3 dead ones. I like to keep them up off the ground, keep tabs. Came out the next day, there was tens of thousands. Right, all around tens, yeah. So sometimes what happens is that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing in a hive. So when the switch is triggered for a certain percentage of the bees to turn their genes off, which is to kill themselves, it's like self-destruction. Sometimes a whole hive will do that, right? It's the biology of the bees, man. And sometimes your whole hive will self-destruct, thinking that enough will survive, right? But sometimes not enough survive, and your whole hive is gone. And that's, in my opinion, is what is going on across the world right now with all this 63% die-off, highest in recorded history. Doesn't mean it's the highest in history. It just means now that we regulate bee farms and we have them track percentage of deaths and beehive losses. Now that beehive people who have a certain amount of beehives, now they're regulated and have to keep certain records. Now we know pretty good about the percentages of die-off. Where before, stuff was just getting thrown around. He said, she said, but now it's pretty well monitored and recorded. How many hives, what could have caused them. So people who have a certain amount of hives, they have to record certain data by law and do certain things by law, and it hasn't always been that way by law. And so, yeah, this is just normal cycle of bees before us humans got involved in raising them. And you can check out the data. It's you'll hear this and hear that. But, oh, look at that black girl. Man, she is as black. She is solid black as night. Her whole body was black as night. Even her wings were black. I see some of these other girls. It's like there's these like little tiny ones that come out, and they're really light tan. I'm talking like almost virtually no black on their body at all. Just a light tan, and then all that, like I said, all in between. Yeah, I kind of like this hive. This is cool. I see a very large diversity of breeds of bees. Pretty neat. And so you can also train your bees to do certain things. The most important, see there they are. Can you see them clustering over there? The fanners, they're big fans. There they are. They're starting to cluster in that corner, away from the main in and out entryway. There they go. Same as yesterday. So bees are highly social animals, and because of that, they can be trained to do certain social things. And all the analytical data that is available today on the study that I'm about to say says, yeah, grooming is very important. If you can get your bees to just groom each other, getting them in the groove of grooming, and so when the new ones are born, coming out, they're seeing this activity, they're going, oh yeah, okay, that's what is expected of me, and it'll just become a normal state. But they can actually go back into not grooming state. So by powder sugaring, you're gonna kind of keep it in. Oh yeah, you got sugar on you. Come here. You always taste good when I groom you. So it's about keeping that cultural set in there. Beehives that do the best in the wild are the ones that have a good grooming culture. That's why they don't need pesticides and all the other stuff, because they already have the grooming culture going on, and that's why they are the ones. That's why they're the 20 or so % that survive, because they're groomers. Right? And so there you go. It's a wonderful day in the beehive area. Have a nice life, good life, wonderful life. Thumbs up, subscribe. Bye now. Oh, I wear this so that the sun always burns me over here. I'm outside all the time. So I wear this because the suntan lotion gets in my eyes and burns my eyeballs. So I wear this all the time now, out in the sun. Try to wear gloves, put lotion on my hands. I just get so many burns, getting all kinds of spots. It's not good for your skin to get radiation burn,